renewal of mind and reconfiguration of our thoughts that we are able to position ourselves to receive all the blessings that God has set aside for us. For it is not us who are waiting for the blessing, but rather the blessing that is waiting for us to be in the right frame of mind to receive it.
I hear a clarion call. It's time to rise and shine. Time to get what's mine. Yeah.
Thy family, and welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. You know, I was even speaking to one of the wise men that are guiding me on this journey that have come into my life at such a time as this, and he was explaining to me that we really don't say thy, don't really say peace, because peace was a way of life. The way we used to greet people is like kia maito, which basically means the daughter of our mother. You know, of our mother or of our father. So you'd greet the women like, oh, our mothers of our mother or something, you know, of our mother, the descendant of our mother. And you'd greet the men like the descendant of our father. And I just found that so beautiful in terms of, you know, you didn't need to say thy because peace was already a way of life. There was no chaos like we know today. But those are stories for other days. Special shout out, of course, to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us on that platform. We appreciate, love you so much for that, family. Thanks to every single person that has bought our single and everyone who sends us love donations. We always put a gift in the mail for everyone who supports us through Love Donations family. So definitely consider supporting the Awakening Africa movement, although Africa is very much awake. And I get so many questions, family, about the revival. You know, different sides. Oh, the revival, is it happening? It's not, it's happening, it's not happening. You know, there's a spiritual awakening amongst our people, of course, that is now so prevalent. It's the biggest wave that's the untalked about biggest wave. It's the biggest underground movement that we've ever seen, family. And so with all these questions that I get about what will revival look like, are we in revival, is Africa in revival, how can you say Africa in a revival? I thought I'd just maybe explain a little bit of that. You see, revival and reformation is a Mzungu term, and they use it because back in the day in Ireland, there was like a whole reformation. I don't know the name of the pastor or whatever, but there was some pastor that came about, a very anointed man. And he went round and he totally, just in one generation, he changed the society totally. Bars were closed, clubs were closed, lives were like totally transformed. And it was like, you know, some will say a Holy Spirit movement or whatever. And that's where the word reformation came from. Where a society is reformed within one generation, because it takes hundreds and hundreds of years to change a society, to change a community, to change a people. Like I was speaking to one of the other wise men. I was speaking to one of the three wise men who are walking with me on this journey at this time. And he was telling me how do I put this? I'm now translating. He was talking to me about how the Mzungus didn't come 100 years ago. They had started to penetrate our communities maybe 500-600 years ago, family, as early as the 1500s. Because it takes a while to change society. And it took a while to create the African we've become, the people we've become. It didn't happen overnight. But they also haven't been here for as long as they claim. Hey, those are stories for other days. But when you have a revival or a reformation, it means that revival means you awaken a spirit that was dead and it's revived, it's brought back to life. And there's a quickening. And all of these are in spiritual terms where people have seen it in the evangelical churches and where there was a certain, a certain vibration pulled everyone up. And people were healed, people could walk, all this stuff. Or, you know, when you see people like pointing to the pastor like this, they're all basically giving that pastor their energy. And then that pastor now becomes almost superhuman because he's getting all this energy from his so-called congregation. And he's able now to perform so-called miracles. You know, because his vibration is so high, he's able to elevate the vibration. And when you elevate your vibration, family, there's no disease, there's no, imbalance. You can literally grow back a limb. You can resurrect yourself, many things. I mean, it's a whole other reality. But all these things, revival, reformation, they talk about a quantum leap in consciousness, where literally in a generation, in a decade, an entire people totally change and they look absolutely nothing like they did before. And that's what we're witnessing happening amongst the melanated people and mostly in the motherland, whether it's being reported or not. The revival that has been talked about, ironically so much by the churches, the end-time revival that will start in Kenya, spread across Africa and penetrate the entire world. It's a revival of our culture, family. It's a revival of who we were. It's a revival of our gods. Now we just put everything in culture because then we're not confusing anyone. It's a revival of our power. It's a revival of who we were. That dormant spirit that could not find a place in Babylon. Because Babylon overlaid their world on top of ours. And they cloned us. They forced us to be cloned. They forced a certain part of us to die so that we could exist in Babylon. We had to reject our ancestors. We had to reject ourselves so that we could choose to wear a less evolved suit and take on a less evolved mental reality. But it didn't happen in a generation. It happened over a while, family. And they've only been able to maintain their power because of the power of a mission. They've left so much out. A lot of people really don't know the truth, which is why, we're always told to have compassion for those who are falling for Babylon's lies. But it's becoming increasingly more tricky to fall for Babylon's lies. And if you're falling for Babylon's lies, at least have a pure heart, family, please. That will save you. But if you have a bad heart, your bad mind, and you're falling for Babylon's crap, then you're gone. Sorry, you've judged yourself out of the game. But the revival that we're seeing right now, family, is a revival of our culture. So many young people are going back to their culture, like among the Agikoyo nation. That rite of passage, because people were moved out of we were moved out of our communities. Our men were brought to the cities when the British came and introduced the hut tax. So they separated the family. They totally disrupted the natural generational graduations that we used to have and coming of age ceremonies that we used to have. They totally disrupted that. But what we've seen is a massive revival of that, where even those people who are deep in Christianity and deep in religion and totally in a total psychosis, totally brainwashed, still feel the urge to bring their teenage sons to take their rite of passage among the Agikoyo. And of course, in Southern Africa, you guys never lost this, but Eastern Africa, we were hit hard. We were really hit hard. They did so much to make sure that we abandoned our culture. And it's because in a place like Kenya, the Agikoyo nation were the custodians of the Ark of the Covenant. I've talked about it so many times, family. So there has been a concerted effort, family, to kill. And for a season, they were able to totally suppress who we are. They were able to totally suppress our ancestors, totally clone our community because the majority of the people believed them so much. And I keep telling you, it's all about the group consciousness, and we exist in a consensus reality. So if you want to see where Africa is heading, look at where our group consciousness is heading. Now what you're finding, family, is that the majority of young people, and remember, the motherland, for example, 75% of the population is under 35. In some countries, it's 75% under 18. In other countries, it's 75% under 25. So we have a very young population who are either being drawn into, they're being given their rites of passage. So even if their mothers still believe in religion and all this stuff, they're feeling this urge to take their children back to their culture. And so there's a break. There's a massive return to who we were. There's a massive return to our cultural practices, even among the ignorant family. And then you're seeing young people having been, there's been so much information that's been released of how the melanated people have been treated around the world. We didn't know this before. And that's why we really can't blame our uncles, aunts, and parents' generation, because they didn't have access to the information that we have. They really didn't know just how atrocious slavery was, what was happening to our brothers and sisters in the divided states. They didn't know that Argentina killed every black person so it can be a pure Mzungu place. And a lot of Nazis, even Hitler, is alleged to have gone there in the end. Hitler didn't die. They didn't know that. They didn't know how we were, the psychological manipulation, spiritual manipulation that was done. The fact that they slaughtered all our high priests. The fact that the lower vibrational witches gave up the angelics who were ruling this world. And the fact that a lot of the high vibrational means just went into the Wakandas. I told you, family, there's 7 to 11 Wakandas, but that's a whole other story that I'm not even permitted. That's all I'm permitted to say. 7 to 11 Wakandas around the motherland. And the reason the ancient ones have permitted me to say that is because some of you may be given access to those Wakandas when sugar hits the fan. Stories for other days that I'll discuss when I'm allowed. So the majority, our group consciousness right now, family, the majority of us, especially the majority of us with power, because you see, before, what we didn't realize is the religious folk were the ones who controlled the group consciousness, because they were the ones who had that spiritual power. Even if it was under the umbrella of the Catholics or the Baptists or whatever, or the Mzungu Jesus. But they were the one running things. That's why Mzungu Jesus became so powerful in Africa. And the Catholic churches of this world came and they took all the bloodlines of our high priests and our leaders and our kings and our queens, and those are the ones that they went and made monks and went and made nuns out of. But now, family, the majority of young people, they want to be African in every way. They're wearing their hair natural. I mean, African fashion is at an all-time high. Afrobeat is the latest thing right now. This is where our group consciousness is coming from. And revival, any kind of revival or reformation, always happens in the arts first, in culture, in what they call culture first, which is the spiritual, imagination, creative realm. As much as, the first creations we see is the art, the music, the fashion. But there are others behind the scenes who are also creating the societies, the buildings, the culture, the new library, the new Bibles, all of that. Yes, new Bibles, new scriptures. I loved it. Someone wrote in the comments that the New Testament will be about our generation, our peoples, what happened in this lifetime. And it was very deep, because there's a monk who once told me that the new Bible is going to be written by women because we are now in feminine time. And I keep telling you, the female Messiah is here. The Queen of the South is here. You guys don't want to hear me. But anyway. So don't look to Babylon and what Babylon is saying. And get out of the cities and anywhere Babylon has a stronghold. Because Babylon is going to collapse their matrix. I mean, it's collapsing anyway. But anything attached, their economies, everything is going to collapse. And people will go into a mental kind of psychosis. They'll go into mental shock. So if you're in the cities and all of a sudden there's no food in the cities, there's no water in the cities, there's no money, people are literally dying of hunger, then of course they're going to come and try rob and steal and kill and destroy the little you have. That's why you move into nature and you create a community with nature. Even if it's just you and your family and nature, nature will protect you. Nature has the power to make you invisible. Stories for other days. So get out of the way where Babylon has the most power. And then watch the shift, because the shift is already happening. The group consciousness has already broken free from Babylon and is now gliding towards a whole new narrative. And don't be tricked into, because you see, Babylon has empowered the Oreos in all our countries to run the industries, to run the media, to tell us their stories. So you can't even really rely on African media right now. Even African YouTubers, because they're rewarded to share certain stories about Africa, this is happening, that is happening. And it's all around the politics, but no one is really talking about this, what's happening spiritually, which is the revival. We're being revived. Some of us are reviving ourselves. There's a resurrection energy where all of a sudden, as we come online with our ancestors, we come online with the ancient ones, we come online with Maito, the ancient one, we come online with Mwene Nyaga, the shining one, Mwene Hinya, the all-powerful one. All power belongs to the Most High. So don't miss the revival because you're paying attention to the wrong things. Every movement started as an underground movement first, where we can say the so-called main media. The powers that be aren't going to tell Africa that we're reviving, but we are. And it's not a church revival, family. That's what they try to. They try to siphon the energy into the. It's not a church revival. This is a revival where we're coming back to ourselves. We were in a coma. We were in a psychosis. We were cloned mentally. And now that has broken off, that has ended. And we are coming back to ourselves, which is why we have the sound now. Everyone is talking about ancestors. Everyone wants to connect. And we need to be careful as well. And maybe I'll do a separate show on that. And we acknowledge the ancestors in the wind always. Always. It's the sunniest of days, family. So it's kind of funny that there's wind. But that is what the revival is. The revival is the revival of our blackness, the revival of our Africanness, the revival of our black power, which is the ultimate power. So don't miss it. Because there is a small community that still has power, the elites in Africa, the petty bourgeois, who sold their souls to Babylon, and that which is why they're in control. And they will try and make you feel that this is not happening because they won't allow their medias to talk about it. They won't allow, they try and block that information. But the revival is well on its way, family. And it's going to peak very soon. And remember, peaking is not a timeline, Ati. In 2025, everything will flip in Africa. No, because it's about, we don't reach things at a certain time. We reach things when the consciousness reaches a certain overstanding, understanding, and understanding. So continue to elevate yourself. Continue to share the news. Continue to spread the message. That's why I'm still here. Because once the group consciousness reaches a certain level, those of us who are even from highest of highest levels will now be free to even go higher. But we need all of us to reach a certain level to unlock the ultimate destiny of Mama Africa.
I hear a clarion call. It's time to rise and shine. Time to get what's mine, yeah. And I want it all, beyond the riches of the world, to the promises of God for my life.